All right, we are recording, so if folks can't join us tonight, they will have an opportunity to look at it later online. What I would absolutely love to see is who's here tonight. So what I mean by that is tell me what grade or grades you're looking at for your children and what brought you here tonight. So the grade level. And then I would love to hear what makes your children happy. It could be one word, it can be a short phrase, but let us know because that's what we want. We want happy children, we want safe children, we want children who enjoy learning. So you could just drop what grade levels you're interested in and also what makes your kids happy. While I get started, I would love to see it. And Margaret, keep a track of that because I want to hear it afterwards. Because once I'm presenting, I don't get to see the chat anymore. All right, folks, I'm going to start sharing my screen. I am a dinosaur when it comes to technology, so I don't think I'll drop you guys, but I'm going to share my screen now. So hold on one second.
And Chuck, while you're doing that, I can tell you right now, it looks like we have quite a few pre-K3 families.
All right, good deal.
We have a fourth grade family.
All right, can everybody see my screen from the panelists? Can you give me a thumbs up if you're looking at the virtual open house first slide? All right. All right, well, again, let's dive right in. Thank you all for joining us. I know it's late, it's 6:35, and you probably all had a very busy day, but we are so excited about our school and about sharing what we know about our school and answering your questions that it's totally worth spending some time with you tonight. So again, drop in grades, drop in what makes your kids happy, and drop in questions as we go. First sign, you can see our brand new beautiful awning. Took me 18 months to get that awning because this is a historic building that was built in 1872. So it's got to get Pentagon review for everything. So we got the awning up. It keeps our kiddos dry and keeps the sun off them. So I just love looking at that picture because it's a victory. So it's very good to meet you, and let's dive in. And there we go. So the Creative's Mind mission, this is our touchstone. This is our North Star. This is what guides all the decisions we make about kids, about who we hire, about how we work together as people and as educators. And we actually, during the pandemic, we took that sort of pause and took that opportunity to work with the board and work with the staff to revisit our mission. Our mission used to be like 2 paragraphs long. Now it's very clear, very succinct, and I think captures what's really important at the Creative Mind School. It's to cultivate within all, very much on purpose, all capitalized there, of our students, the mindset, skills, creativity, and commitment to equity, essential in becoming globally aware and independently minded citizens. A big change that we put in our mission when we rewrote it was the inclusion of the word all and equity. We realized in the pandemic, we didn't realize, the inequities in our system were put under a very bright spotlight in the pandemic, and schools had to do a lot more than just teach kids to help kids be able to be taught. And that was all through equity and making sure folks had equitable opportunities to access education. So for us, it's become really a very important issue that we always highlight nowadays. Creative Minds is divided into basically 2 schools at the moment. We've got, or 2 divisions. We've got a lower school, which runs from pre-K3 through 4th grade. And then we have a middle school, which runs 5th grade through 8th grade. And the number of all of our students this year is 548. We've been growing every year. We'll be growing by another 60 students next year with a total cap of about 669, 670 students a couple of years down the road. Very excited about our growth. We're very excited that we have a long wait list every year and that people want to be part of our community. What's special about Creative Minds, you're going to hear a lot more about this when you go into the breakout sessions, but it is designed around the student. It's a student-centered approach. We focus on the whole child. That's just not the one point in the spring and how they test. We don't teach to the test. We teach children how to be wonderful human beings, how to be globally aware and independent thinkers. So that means we focus on academic learning and socio-emotional development in equal measure. Big part of what we do, and you're going to hear more about it again, I don't want to steal anybody's thunder later, but we've got the International Schools curriculum. which is based out of an organization called Fieldwork in London, and it's in schools all over the world. And we are actually the only public school in the United States that's accredited to use this curriculum. So we're really excited about that. But in our curriculum, every month, and again, you'll hear more about what units look like, but every month we have a theme or a personal goal. And here's our goals for this month. It guides how we learn and work together. We are adaptable. We are communicators. We're collaborators. We are empathetic. We are thinkers. We are resilient, and we are respectful. In this last 2 years in the pandemic, we tapped into our personal goals a lot. And I think as a school, we came out even stronger at the end of the pandemic than we were when we entered it. And so I'm really excited, and I feel like these are critical foundation stones to our school and to the work we do. Another really important part of our school, and this is again all about equity, is we are an inclusion school. That pretty much means students of all needs, of all demographics, of everything, are all together as much as humanly possible, as much as academically appropriate. That means we have a director of inclusion whose sole job is to make sure across the entire school, we are doing our utmost so every student, no matter what their learning capacity, no matter what their interests are, no matter what they're really good at, no matter what they may be challenged at, they can access the curriculum and they can be learning with their colleagues, with their friends. It's not that we pull them all the time and put them in a room. And I've been in schools where the special ed students were all in the basement. Our students are all in together. So how do we accomplish some of this? Just here are some of the high points. We have meetings of all of our new families. That's all of our new families, including our IEP students. We try to understand what our students' needs are. And then we revisit IEPs often to make sure that the IEP is properly written to tailor to meet the needs of the students. That's a very data-driven and family partnership process that's all led by the picture of this very handsome gentleman here, Dr. Emmanuel Taiwo, who's our new director of inclusion, who joined us last year. And he's really building a really strong program. A day in the life, as I mentioned, our students participate with others in learning activities and in social activities. Teachers know what's in a student's IEP, and they know how to implement what's in an IEP in a classroom setting. So that means we do centers, that means we use small breakout groups, that we do a lot of different groupings to stress kids' skills and to do proper scaffolding so kids can learn. Collaboration, that's among our related service providers. So if a child needs speech therapy or needs OT or counseling, our related service providers are part of the education team. We're all partners in this. So our general ed teachers know what's going on. Our related service providers talk to our general ed teachers. We have inclusion teachers at every grade level. And then we have a whole cadre of paraprofessionals in those instances where students need one-on-one help or we need additional support in classrooms. We are also unique as a school in that most of our related services are actually full-time employees of ours, and which is really great because then they are truly part of the team. Obviously, if we have greater needs, we'll contract out, but we really want to meet the needs within our current staff. So we've got speech language pathologists on staff, occupational therapists, we have social workers, we have counselors, we have physical therapists, we have audiologists, et cetera. So we really provide the whole suite. As I said a couple slides ago, it's about the whole child and meeting all of the child's needs. Nurturing our community. It's great to focus on individual students, but we also want our students to know they're part of something bigger and that whole community is there for them. And they are a critical part of that community. It's all about inclusion, as I mentioned. So we do this through a couple of many different ways, but some of the ones I want to highlight are we have community meetings. That's where kids come and they actually talk about what they've learned. They learn about cultures. They learn about the personal goals of the month, and we talk about how it impacts us. Lower school has community meetings twice a month. Middle school has it once a month. And again, it's where we all come together and we learn together as a group and we celebrate what we've learned. We also have exit points in our curriculum, which are also shared celebrations of learning. So we celebrate, you've mastered this, tell us what you've mastered. That's fantastic, let us applaud you. We also have advisories, and in our advisories, those are socio-emotional lessons. We work with kids to understand what's going on, and if there are some emotional challenges or there's some trauma involved or something like that, we work together to understand that and to help every child be successful. We're also a very safe and healthy community. I know a lot of you are new to our community and just learning about us. We spent a lot of time over the last 2 years talking about safety. Our motto was basically kids have to be safe and healthy in order to learn. Teachers have to be safe and healthy in order to teach. If you don't take care of both, you're not going to be successful. And then we also realized that our community had needs during the pandemic and continues to have needs. So we made sure we delivered food where food was needed. We delivered other social services where they were needed. We made sure everybody had devices and access to technology. It's really about a communal approach and the individuals being part of the many, or the ones being part of the many. So some of the things we're doing now in response to the pandemic. We do weekly COVID testing of every single person in the building. That's every student, that's parents and other siblings and other community members if they want to come in, and it's all of our staff. We do it on Fridays. We have about 40 nurses come in and they knock out the entire 560 kids and 135 staff in about an hour. And we get our results over the weekend so we can plan for Monday if we have to exclude people or if we have to do contract tracing if we've had positive tests. That's a really important part of us, the surveillance testing, to know what's going on. Overall, our surveillance testing has shown us that our positivity rate at the school is under 1%. That's less than what the city positivity rate is. In fact, almost all of our cases of late have come from outside of the community where there's been gatherings of people haven't masked properly or there's been unvaccinated people. And they're reporting to us that they tested positive because they felt symptomatic. We have also run vaccination clinics, both flu and COVID-19 vaccines. Excuse me. We've had 2 of them so far. We had 170 people get their first shot. Those were our kiddos. Once the kids were eligible, we made sure they were able to get their shots. And then we did our second shots about a week ago. So when we go to spring or to Christmas break or to holiday break, our families and our students who got the shots will be fully vaccinated. It takes 2 shots and 2 weeks for it to incubate in your system to be considered fully vaccinated. We are also very important and very focused on making sure our staff are vaccinated. We have one of the highest vaccination rates in the city of staff, and making sure everybody gets their boosters as well. We have a daily app. So everybody, before they come into the building, students come into the building, they get online. We have an app that the son of one of our staff members designed for us, where you answer some COVID questions. And if you answer them right and it pops up green, all you have to do is show us your screen and the student's welcomed into the building. If it pops up orange, we're going to ask you to go home and to get tested and to, or go see a doctor and get an alternative diagnosis. We have rigorous cleaning protocols. We brought on a brand new cleaning company and they are amazing. Every hard surface gets wiped down multiple times a day. Bathrooms get cleaned multiple times a day. Every weekend, we do an electrostatic spray of all hard surfaces with disinfectant. Every classroom has disinfectant spray and wipes in it and all that. So that's really helped keep our rates down, but also has given us all the sense of comfort and knowing that our school is clean. We also are practicing social distancing, cohorting very clearly, and masking is a mandate within the school. And we're holding each other accountable because sometimes they slip down and we make sure the kids put them all the way up, and we hold each other accountable too. And that seems to be working really well. We've also installed air filtration systems in every single classroom. They're portable units. They circulate the air, I believe, 6 times an hour, and it filters out 99.9% of the germs. So that's also helped keep transmission really low in the school building. Extracurricular activities. Yes, you can be in school all day, but do we get to have some fun at some point? We have an extended inclusive, extended creative day program that is designed to complement the learning of the day. What that means is when we get back to normal, we will offer before care for school. Right now, we're not because of cohorting concerns, but we are currently offering after school and clubs and what we call Wednesday enrichment. Wednesday enrichment is in place because Wednesday's a half a day of learning for kids in classes. And then our teachers, our teaching assistants, our dedicated aides, our inclusion teachers spend the other half of the day in professional development. So they can get better at their art form, they can get better at their craft, and they can work together, they can plan together, they can do the piles of paperwork that you have to do as a teacher. That's been really effective in giving our teachers some space to be better at their work. During that time, we offer free care, aftercare, and enrichment to anybody who desires it. Or families can go home at the early dismissal time. That's every Wednesday. We also offer individual music lessons. We have a middle school student council that is awesome. We have a teacher that organizes every year. They go through the vote. They work with our Creative Families Association, which is kind of like a PTO that supports the school. And they'll go meet with the CFA and let the CFA know what the students really want. And so it's a really powerful thing. When we get more towards normal, we're going to obviously enhance more of our aftercare programming and offer more clubs where we can do more cohort mixing. But right now, we're very careful to control our cohorts. So if we do have a positive test, we know how to do the contract tracing. I'm not going to take you through this virtual tour, but I really, really want all of you to look at it. So please take some time. It's beautiful. It's normally we would do an open house and you'd all be with us in the great hall, which you will see in the tour, and we'd walk around the classrooms. What's really nice about the tour is that you actually get to go into some classrooms. You get to hear from NIAMCO sort of the design behind our school and the kind of things we try to do really well here. And you get to see the beautiful building that we're in. As I mentioned, it's a National Historic Monument, and we're honored to be here. Our students call it the castle because if you've seen it from the outside, it absolutely looks like a castle, which sort of elevates this magical piece of what we believe education should be. And then this is for your information. You may know this already if you went to EdFest or if you've looked at our website. I'm not sure what's brought you here, but we are accepting applications for all grades. The vast majority of them tend to be at the lower grades in our pre-K 3. And then we do often have seats in the upper grades, and we will fill them based on the lottery program. So go to mysschooldc.org, list us as your #1 choice. The application period, it's open on the 13th. It runs through March 1st. The results will be released on, of course, April Fool's Day. And with that, if there aren't any questions in the chat, I think what we're going to do now is, well, we'll answer the questions if there are any, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then we will send you off to your lower school or your middle school rooms, whichever you prefer. All right. Margaret, you want to start reading some of the questions to us so we can answer them?
So the next grade that, oh, can you hear me? Okay, the next grade that we're going to be adding would be which grade? We
have all 11 grade bands. So we are pre-K 3 through 8th grade. So we're not going to add a 9th grade next year or something like that. And pre-K 3 is as low as you can go. What we're going to do is every year, pre-K 3 is all new. So that's where a lot of our new students come in. And we have 3 classes in pre-K 3. We have 3 classes all the way up through next year. We'll have 3 classes in 5th grade, and we're going to continue to grow. So we'll be 3, and then those 3 will move up and move up and move up and move up. So we'll be at full capacity in a couple of years.
Great. There were a lot of questions about how many spots do we have available. So pre-K 3, you just answered.
Yep.
But you want to talk a little bit about the other class levels, grade levels.
We will know better in a couple of weeks how many of our pre-K 3 families are going to return. Our re-enrollment rate and retention rate is pretty high. So there's always more seats at pre-K 3 than there are pre-K 4, obviously, because it's all new seats. But I don't know the exact number right now. And Heather Hesslink, who is my enrollment guru, is watching her son graduate from the University of Louisiana tomorrow. So she's down in New Orleans. So what we can do is we can do a Q&A after this, or like frequently asked questions, drop it on our website and make sure those questions get answered in writing.
Okay. Is pre-K separate from the upper schools?
Meaning physically separate? Or because all of our classes and classrooms are in the same building. Basically, the building is laid out over 3 floors, really 3.5 floors. The lowest first entry level is all of our pre-K 3 up through 1st grade. So that's pre-K 3, 4, kinder, and 1st grade. And then some support services are down there and some ops offices are down there. move up to the second level, and that's where the Great Hall and our 2 gymnasiums are. And then the next level up, so officially the 3rd floor, is where 2nd through 4th grade is. And then the middle school is all up on what we call the 3rd floor, which is 5th through 8th grade.
Thank you. How many children are in each class? Okay.
Yep. So our class sizes are by design very small, and those particular questions we can go actually grade by grade when you break out into your rooms. But we've capped most of our classes at 20 or 21 in the upper elementary grades, and then for pre-K, it's usually smaller, oftentimes around 17. Every class has 2 adults in it at a bare minimum. Oftentimes there'll be more. It's oftentimes a lead teacher and a teaching assistant, or a lead teacher and an inclusion teacher.
Thank you. What specifically makes your school international?
Great question. I'll start, but I'd love Nyamka to sort of fill in, because she is a trained expert in accrediting schools and international curriculum. And Lorna taught overseas in Dubai for many, many years and worked in a lot of schools overseas. So they're both international experts. But really, it's our curriculum. Our curriculum is one that I guess the closest thing you can say in the United States is probably an IB, International Baccalaureate. But it's very particular to designed around global awareness, around appreciation of cultures, appreciation of languages. So we do offer 2 languages in the building. All kids in elementary school get both Mandarin and Spanish. And then when they go to middle school, they pick one that they can specialize in. So they'll pick either the Mandarin track or the Spanish track. Because I did see a question, or I heard there's always a question about what languages we offer. So there's that. And the curriculum is really designed, especially in the social science and the science units, around global questions. It's project-based, it's circular, it's cyclical, the way you learn. And Nyamka, why don't you add a little more layers on top of that? And then Lorna, if you can give a couple words of what that looks like in a middle school environment, that would be great.
So good evening, I'm Nyamka Long, the Chief Academic Officer. Just to add what makes our program unique with the international component is that we also want to celebrate cultures from around the world. I think our population is very diverse, and we want to celebrate all the different rich cultures that are brought into our community, and we see those as opportunity for learning. With the different languages also that our students have the opportunity to participate in, it's not just learning the language, but also the cultures with those language, which we think is so important, because we realize that we want to prepare our students for what's to come next, and really seeing it as a global society. We want them to be able to be knowledgeable about not just their own culture, but cultures around the world, and be able to engage with other communities and cultures in a way that they're comfortable talking about that, and talking about their being happy about their culture, but then also wanting to learn about other cultures as well.
And coupled with everything that Ms. Long has said, my name is Lorna Dill, the middle school director. In addition to the cultural aspect of our school, our students have the opportunities to build and create, answer open-ended questions, make questions of their own. And so coming from an international background, that is something that we hone in on, giving them advocacy and voice so that they can learn how to go out into the world and be globally minded.
Great. Next question. On the My School DC website, the lottery preferences for Creative Minds include sibling attending, children of staff, and siblings offered. If your child does not fall into one of these categories, how are they considered for entry?
That's a great question. So in the My School DC lottery process, it's fundamentally a lottery. So everybody has a certain time period. Doesn't matter when you enter the lottery, you're all in the lottery at the same time, and then it's shut off. No one else can enter. And then there's an algorithm that does a random picking after you go through your preferences. So the preferences include, as you noted, sibling attending. That moves you up in the lottery scale if you're on a wait list, for example. If they're children of staff also get preferential. That's written into law. So what would happen at that point, once we run through that, is it's truly just a lottery. And then we fill the seats up until they're full, and then a wait list happens, again, as they're picked out of the computerized hat. And so everybody gets assigned a number. And if folks decide not to enroll, then that opens up the first slot. And then we reach out to that family and say, slot opened up, would you like the spot? What happens is many families enter the lottery for a lot of schools. You are to rank them. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then that functions into there too. We will find out if you rank us 1, 2, 3, or 4, and where you fall on our wait list. And then we start calling people if we need to after April 1st to fill up empty seats.
Awesome. Can you walk us through the drop-off and pickup process? And are parents allowed to come into school? And is there a carpool drop-off line? And is there parking available?
Yeah, great questions. I'm going to give 2 answers to them because one is normal, right? Not pandemic, and then what we're currently doing. So there is a drop-off lane. It's offered for our little ones. Most of our middle schoolers get themselves to school, so we don't need them to be dropped off. But the drop-off lane is for up to 2nd grade. It's literally a lane right in front of the front door. I'm out there every day. Other administrators are out there. Other teachers' aides are out there to greet kids. We also do the screening at that time that I mentioned. So we'll ask you to show us a green screen, or if you don't have it, we'll ask you the COVID questions. Once you're screened health-wise, we'll bring the kids into the school. So it's really nice. I love it. It's my most favorite part of my day because I get to say hi to 400 kiddos and a couple of hundred families. Currently, we do not allow parents into the school or visitors into the school. That is around the COVID protections and to ensure our cohorts don't get tainted. You know, as things continue to relax, or Lord knows what's going to happen with Omicron, we track these things every day. We will adjust our policies, but parents are allowed to come in for the little ones under normal circumstances. There's a humongous parking lot. Let me tell you a little bit about our site. We are at it's called the Armed Forces Retirement Home. It's at the corner of Rock Creek Church Road and Upshur Street in Petworth. It was literally implemented when Abraham Lincoln was, and it's the home to Lincoln's Cottage, when he was president, and he used to come up to the cottage and sleep at the cottage, conduct his business at the White House. While he was there, they built a field hospital, which grew into the building that we are currently in. It is a residence hall. So it was a medical and / residence hall for veterans. Our building, the number of veterans that live here has gone down. So the building became available. Schools moved into it. We've been here for 6 years now. There is ample parking in what we call Lot 5. And certainly if you enroll, we'll give you all this information. And it's all over our website too. But you can park in and you can walk your kids up to the front door and go through the screening process that way. And certainly if there's school, we're able to have people back in the school, there's ample parking down in the lots as well.
What is teacher retention like for pre-K?
Great question, especially in this day and age. Again, everything's qualified right now. But I love to actually brag about this point. During the pandemic, we made offers to folks we wanted to come back. So we made offers to 107 of our teachers. That's not counting ops people and stuff like that. 104 of them came back. So all of our pre-K 3 teachers are here. So that was a 97% teacher retention rate, which to my knowledge is the highest in the city at this point. Next year, it's hard to know because right now, current surveys of teachers are saying that a third to 40+% of them are thinking about leaving the profession because it's been so difficult. We do a lot to try to take care of our community and to make sure people feel safe. And so we don't expect to have that kind of issue next year, but we'll see.
Okay, so a lot of these questions are for the different grade levels and maybe so that they can move on to their breakout sections. I'm just going to do the ones that are kind of general questions.
Yep.
Like, is there a cost for aftercare?
Yes, currently there's not. Typically under normal circumstances there is, and it's a sliding scale. And we will post all of that on the website once it's developed.
Is it run in-house or by an outside company?
It's run currently in-house. We have an aftercare director on staff who coordinates and manages the whole thing and is the main point of contact with staff, with families.
Okay. And can you just give examples of the type of programs we have in aftercare?
Yeah, right now it's looser than typically, and the offerings are less because what we had in the past is we had clubs where we'd bring outside people. So we had a sewing club, we had cooking clubs, we had things like that where outside folks would come in, we'd contract with them. They and some of our staff members would run this cool club, and kids with all different grades would be part of it. Right now, it's a lot more our staff, and they're working on academics and playtime, exercise time, snacks, those kind of things. It's sort of an adjustment to the pandemic. When we're back to normal, we expect to offer much more enriched and interesting things. Bring our sports back. We had a basketball team before the pandemic. There's proposals for a potential soccer team. But again, all those things are kind of on hold at the moment because of the pandemic.
Okay. And do you know of any transportation options from Capitol Hill?
Options, meaning, well, so the most obvious one is if it's in a student's IEP, there's transportation provided by the Office of State Superintendent, and we would help coordinate that. Right now, we do, a lot of our families will carpool in, they will car share, they will park, they'll walk their kids in. We have families from all 8 wards right now. Most of them, though, are concentrated in Ward 4 and Ward 5, so closer to the school. Our middle schoolers, we have middle schoolers who will come all the way from east of the river and ride 3 or 4 buses to get to school. So there's all sorts of options.
Okay. How do you handle
And
students?
we do not have a shuttle. There are not enough. So we spend most of our money on staff instead of buying buses and things like that, or bus contracts, to be quite frank. That's just a choice we made.
And how do you handle students that are advanced in their class?
So that's the beauty of the, well, why don't you take this? That's the beauty of the curriculum. It's designed for all different levels. So go for it.
Yeah, I was just going to say the design of the curriculum as well as the adults in the classroom, we're able to kind of really target where students are and create those flexible groups. So a student may be advanced in one subject area and they might be in one group, and for a different subject area, their skills may be different, and so they'd be in a different group. So the class size and the curriculum lend itself, in the small group instruction, lend itself to be able to meet students where they are.
Okay, and blah, blah. How many families / kids left in the past 2 years during the pandemic?
We have been fortunate enough to be fully enrolled throughout the pandemic. We've met all of our enrollment projections. I know a lot of schools are 20%, 30% lower than they had hoped. We've only have 4 families that were able to, or who applied for and received the medical exemption to learn virtually. So they're still part of the school, but we have 1 teacher who does their virtual learning, and that's due to a medical exemption. But really, we've been very lucky. Our overall retention rate is in the 80s and 90% with students, certainly in our lower school in particular. 4th grade, 5th grade, that's always a big transition period for all schools, and that's where we have probably the lower retention rates.
Okay. What's the process for little ones to get to their rooms from the front door to the room door?
We have staff that walk them there. And by, within a week of them doing that, the kids want to do it on their own. It's the conversations are great at the front door. It's like, do you remember where your classroom is? They're like, yes, I'm in Miss Stephanie's room. It's right over there. And they trot on over there. So the unwilling little ones, they sometimes might have to be carried and coddled or congealed in there. What we find, and my youngest, who's now an 8th grader, really had a lot of separation anxiety in pre-K3. But after his teachers got to know him, and he got to know his teachers, after a couple of weeks, he didn't even say goodbye to me when I dropped him off. And that's what happens a lot. So it's a little hard on your heart, but it's also incredibly encouraging when they skip into school and wave and say they see their friends.
So I think that a lot of the other questions are grade-based. So
Awesome.
there's one last one that I think is important that everyone should hear at the same time. And do you offer meals to students, and if they cost?
We have breakfast, lunch, and snack, and they do not cost.
Okay.
And
Good.
obviously, if folks want to bring their own food, let me add a couple more layers. If students want to bring their own lunches and their own snacks, that's totally fine. We've got those periods all built in. If there's allergies, we've got a great food provider in Top Spanish where they will make adjustments and they'll label the lunches. If a certain kid is a vegetarian or has allergies, they'll label it and make sure it gets to the right kids.
Okay, so I know I said that was the last question, but I was wrong. What time is breakfast?
First thing when they get there, they're waiting for them when they get to the rooms.
Awesome. Chuck, for the people that weren't here in the beginning, do you want to mention the meals again that were served and how we are handling the meals for the students that are leaving because of illness or whatever this year?
So wait, you want me to talk about meals? I'm sorry.
Yes, talk about meals and how we are
so-
making sure everyone eats.
So yeah, so there's a couple things. One of the things that we did during the pandemic, we were the first school to design and get approved a at-home delivery meal. So we delivered 182,100 meals during the pandemic to our community for free. That was 7 lunches and 7 breakfasts every week to a particular family. They didn't even have to be enrolled here. It was if one of our community members knew somebody needed it, they just had to be a DC resident, we fed them. Likewise, if a child has to stay home if they're excluded for whatever reason, if there's a positive case in their class and they're a close contact, they just need to say, we'd like food delivered, and we'll have the food delivered to their home. And again, there's no cost to it.
Okay, and as we're moving on, there's a question about nurses.
Yep.
Do we have a nurse first aid for non-COVID issues, falls, bumps, etc.?
Yes, we have a full-time nurse who handles all of that and also helps with medications. If kids need medications, they need to be administered, and she keeps them safe in her safe. There's a full nurses suite with a bathroom, examination tables, place for kids to rest. We also have a COVID specific nurse currently under contract who focuses on kids who might be displaying COVID symptoms and determine whether it's a flu or COVID. We also just got approved to be our own lab. So if a child displays symptoms, we can do a rapid COVID test right then and there and analyze it. We can also do a flu test. So we can send them home and a strep test. So when you come pick up your child, you'll know if they have strep, or you'll know if they have flu, or if they don't have any of those and you need to see a doctor, or they just have a headache. So we're really excited about that. That was a pretty complicated process, and we just became approved for that.
Great. I think Ms. Jen has dropped the links into the chat. If your question was not answered and it was middle or lower school specific, they will be able to answer those during the breakout sessions. And I think we are supposed to transition right now.
Yeah, so just click on the links and that will take you out of this Zoom meeting and into the next one. I saw one question about, is it being recorded? Yes, this was recorded and it will be available for other people to watch whenever they'd like. Okay, thanks, Jen. She just dropped it in the chat. All right, thank you, everybody. Feel free to reach out with any questions. We're here all the time, and I'm so grateful you took some time to get to know us today.